when he gets here. So we'll all please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. All right, thank you. All right, first on the agenda, we have discussion and consideration of hiring Allison O'Connor. Erin, did you want to say anything before we go into our motion and everything?
Sure, Allison is here. Just want to give a quick wave. We advertised this for just about 3 weeks. We had several applicants and we conducted 6 interviews. And Allison has amazing credentials as well as relative elections experience. Was actually the only one with any elections experience. However, she had the vast background in office. Is actually highly skilled and worked for the state police previously. So she's an excellent candidate. She served 2 election cycles, actually 3 election cycles for the town of Richmond as a head supervisor. So she is very much aware of what she's getting into, and she's also served quite a bit during early voting. So be a favorable recommendation.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody want to kick off a motion? Sure, go ahead, Jim. Are you?
Yep, absolutely. I'd like to make a motion to hire Allison O'Connor as the full-time assistant elections clerk in the town clerk's office. And do I need to state the rate as stated in the?
You can just say the rate as stated. In
The rate as stated in
letter.
the advertised letter. Thank you.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, we got our second. Any council discussion, questions, concerns? Mark, you got something?
No.
No. All right, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore?
Yes.
Palmigano?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. Welcome to the party. All right.
And Allison, I don't believe you need to stay for the whole meeting, so.
You're free to go.
Yeah, free to go.
All right, on to appointments and resignations. Is Christine Donahue online?
She is. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So would you like to introduce herself and say hello?
Christine, you should have permissions now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I don't know why my video is so dark. It wasn't when I first logged in, so excuse the technical difficulties, but I am here.
Awesome. Thank you for stepping up. Any counselors want to throw a motion now?
Motion to appoint Christine Donahue to the Dog Park Committee, term expiring January 31, 2027.
All right, I'll second it. Any counselor questions or concerns or things you want to say, discussion?
Just always thank you for stepping up.
For sure, yeah, Christine, thank you for stepping up to the Dog Park Committee.
Of course, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. Welcome to the party.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next, we have discussion and consideration of Ms. Jeannie Nash for request to the Recreation Commission. Yeah, would you like to step up and share a few words about your interest?
I've always believed in giving back and volunteering, and I've probably been coaching more than you've all been live. So I've done, I've done camps. I do a golf league. I run a golf league. I've coached for years and years. I run a softball league. And I think that I have a lot to offer rec as far as good ideas.
Awesome.
That's why I'm interested.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That sounds great. And like Jim said, thanks for stepping up. Go ahead,
Would you
Jim.
like a motion?
Yes, please.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jean Nash to the Recreation Commission with term expiring January 31st, 2026.
Second.
All right, we got our motion. We got our second. Any council discussion? Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, just as a former chair for the Recreation Commission and someone who is very passionate about what that organization does. So happy to see your resume, so happy to see the diverse background that you bring. I think you're going to offer such a great opportunity to expand the portfolio that the Recreation Commission does. So thank you so much for stepping up.
I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Excited to have you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. All right, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Counselor Mandic,
Yes.
yes, Counselor Palmigano.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. Welcome to the party. On to new business. I'm gonna skip F1. I presented this last meeting as, discussion was ongoing for the Economic Development Commission and various options, but it seems unnecessarily duplicative based on the actions we took last council meeting. So I'm comfortable moving forward. Hearing no objection, I'm gonna go forward. On to my next request, which was a request of discussion and consideration of a resolution support of full funding for categorical transportation aid. This is not guaranteed every year, so this is kind of like an annual renewal of our support, asking the state legislator to support it as well, so we can continue to get funding as needed for our schools.
So move.
So I will make, yeah, no, go ahead. Motion to approve the resolution in support of full funding.
Second.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. Any further council discussion? All right, Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Magnet.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Wilcox, yes. On to new business number 3. Counselor Mandic, you want to take it away?
Sure. Do you want me to explain the purpose of this agenda item?
Please.
It's up to you. Sometimes it's good to kick it off with a motion. If you want to give a little explanation first, that's good too.
Let's give a little explanation first. So, late last month, I think it was late last month, I can't keep my dates straight anymore. Myself, our Representative Cotter and Karen Pinch met with Speaker Sakarchi, who happens to be a very well experienced land use attorney, to discuss potential options for what the town can do to facilitate economic development, what the different options were. And one of the things that was suggested during that meeting was looking into potentially creating a redevelopment agency in Richmond. There are redevelopment agencies in at least 9 different towns and cities in Rhode Island, including Providence, North Smithfield, Burrowville, West Warwick, Woonsocket, Central Falls, Lincoln, Portsmouth, and Pawtucket. It's recorded in state statute, Title 45, Chapter 31, which defines redevelopment agencies. So I'll just give a quick rundown. I just got a summary for you guys. The purpose of a town redevelopment agency is to encourage, direct, and regulate new development and redevelopment within districts, and to acquire and redevelop those areas itself, which the agency determines cannot be redeveloped otherwise. The establishment of the redevelopment agency for the purpose of the elimination and prevention of blighted and substandard areas, and the replacement through redevelopment by well-planned, integrated, stable, safe, and healthful neighborhoods. So the question that's posed tonight to the town, and what I'm going to request for a motion in a moment, is, does Richmond believe there exists blighted and substandard areas within the town, and that these areas constitute a serious and growing, the word is menace, an odd word, but which is injurious and inimical to the public health, safety, morals, and welfare of the people of the town of Richmond and the people of the state of Rhode Island generally. There's some additional details of the redevelopment agency we can get into under discussion. But I'll start off by making a motion to request our town solicitor to draft an ordinance to establish a Richmond redevelopment agency.
Awesome, second. Awesome. Any council discussion? Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
So what would that consist of, the agency itself? Who would be involved? Say,
Madam Chair, I can answer that if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay. Well, membership consists of 7 members that are selected by the town council. Qualifications include legal, architectural, engineering, real estate, finance, construction, environmental fields, backgrounds. They have a number of powers that they can carry out. And this all depends on exactly how we write the ordinance. And maybe in a moment we can ask our solicitor for some input, because I did give him a big packet of material just to get familiar with real quick before the meeting. So the powers are the redevelopment agent can sue and be sued, which is interesting, borrow money, compromise and settle claims, make and execute contracts and other instruments necessary or convenient to exercise its powers, which also include They can amend and repeal their own bylaws and rules to carry out their duties. They select and appoint their own officers, agents, and counsel. They can purchase, lease, acquire land, utilize eminent domain, clear and demolish buildings and rehabilitate. They can develop a building site or sites of any real property owned or acquired by that agency. They can construct or install streets, sidewalks, playgrounds, parks, etc. They could prepare or have prepared plans necessary for the redevelopment of blighted and substandard areas with the planning board or on behalf of the planning board. They can offer technical assistance to property owners to encourage voluntary improvement, carry out code enforcement, potentially invest any funds held in reserves, and they can lend money to sell, lease, exchange, subdivide, transfer, assign, pledge, encumber, or otherwise dispose of any real or personal property. The town council must designate by ordinance one or more areas within the community that are defined as a redevelopment area for the redevelopment agency to work on. So there's a little bit of legwork. This is not going to be a quick process. We have to get an ordinance drafted. We're going to have to work through it, understand if it's what we want to get out of it. And then we're going to have to go through the process of creating the agency itself, appointing members, and then have them perform their duties. So they're like a quasi legislative body. Maybe that's not the perfect definition. Maybe the solicitor can explain that a little more than me, because there's a lot of legalese that I don't quite understand. That's why I'm hoping that we can have that request tonight to have our solicitor work on it for us.
So for you to kind of like go with this, want to get this going and things like that, you must have areas in mind. Is it more like areas that business can go in, or is it? I know you mentioned a lot of the stuff about land and things like that. I don't really see a lot of. I do see some blighted areas, obviously over in Terre Plaza, things like that. But other places, are there? I don't know. I'm asking because I'm sure you guys have been around the town more than I have.
Maybe I can think of a couple others that could benefit from it. I'm sure you could as well.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just don't want to call out any individual places publicly because I just don't want to further ruin any relationships that may be out there. But I can definitely think of other places aside from just the Wyoming area that may be able to benefit from this. I'm actually really excited about it. I have a lot of questions, but I think a lot of those questions would be answered honestly through the great work that our town solicitor does. And when he gets it all together, I'll probably have a lot of the questions answered once I see the actual ordinances. So I'm definitely going to support at least getting to the point where we're seeing a draft and then kind of flesh out the who's and the, who's on the agency and how much power they have, and all kind of be fleshed out.
So
further down the
we're
line.
just voting on him coming up with the ordinance. We can read, get more in detail stuff, and then kind of decide, right?
It's my understanding.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Because I downloaded a bunch of ordinances from other towns, and I've looked at the general laws. And like I said, I'm not an attorney. I can glean some things from it, like the summary I just gave you. But there's so much legalese and detail in this, and there's a lot of powers that you can bestow on this redevelopment agency, and that's something I think like the town needs to really consider, and the council needs to work through. Perhaps once we have something like drafted, we could have a workshop so we can have public input. Maybe there's someone in the town that's familiar with this. We're not creating the wheel. Other towns have done this. It's in the state statute. It's just adopting another mechanism to help our town move forward in different ways. It could be commercial or business. It could be residential. There are some parts in here that talk about low to moderate income housing. It's really pretty broad.
Yep. What would the cost of the town be, you think?
To be determined.
To be determined?
Right now, I think it would just be the cost of our solicitor's legal time.
Councilor Palmigano.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just on the cost too, is something, I was very interested to look at Barberville's example, being, demographically and developmentally wise, a very similar type community. And the funding was interesting. And one of the things I found here, typically with the redevelopment agencies, the primary funding is through mechanisms called tax incremental financing, TIFs, and where they capture the increased property tax revenue generated within a designated redevelopment area meaning the funds come from the different property values before and after redevelopment activities occur in that area. Essentially, the increased tax revenue due to revitalization is used to fund the redevelopment project. So it's almost like has a self-generating sustainability piece to it, right? So that was interesting. I think we need to see more examples, more details on that funding, but it sounds intriguing.
For sure. Mark, anything on that?
And again, I know we're at the very early stages of this, but one concern, haven't looked at any of the local ordinances, but I did look at the statute. And two things kind of jumped out at me. I'm hesitant to have the town get in the business of redeveloping property. And my understanding of part of the statute is the redevelopment agency has to basically create a redevelopment plan for the area and say, this is the plan that we're going to execute, and this is how we're going to execute it. So I'm a little hesitant about having the town get into that kind of thing. I think it's a tool that would be a good tool to have in our toolbox to perhaps, and like Dan said, part of it could be encouraging, redevelopment. And, maybe if some of the people in the areas that we're talking about see this happening, it will encourage them to do something themselves instead of having it foisted upon them. But that was my initial just general concern is from what I can tell, the 7 people that we're going to, or whoever, going to be part of this agency are going to be charged with creating a actual development plan for a particular area. And that's concern number 1. Concern number 2 is I'm not a big fan of eminent domain. I think it's a last resort. And so I think any powers that the agency has in that regard should be very narrowly tailored. And, we need to look at that as well. So those are just 2 very general concerns that I had. But I think done, hopefully we could do it in a way, like I said, that we have this tool in our toolbox. And if we, if it needs to be used, we can use it. But
For sure. I do share those concerns, and I think that we could kind of flesh them out when we see it. I have a little bit of concern about giving too much power to an appointed body. If there could be some other buy-in by people who are held accountable, like the council, we're held accountable to our constituency a little harder than an appointed person is. I'd like to see something like that incorporated into it. But I'm still excited to see where it goes. I did want to say, to Dan's point about public input, I like the idea of doing a workshop that would include public input, but also as a reminder, since this is established by ordinance, it would have a fully advertised public hearing, which will have all the public input in the world. So that's exciting as well. Anybody else got anything they want to add?
You don't mind, one additional
Sure.
comment. So I work in New London, Connecticut at Electric Boat. And for those that are familiar, or our solicitor might be, there was a fairly, I don't want to say famous, maybe infamous case. It was Hilo versus the city of New London. And that's where the city of New London essentially took by eminent domain private property for another private developer to develop in the Fort Crumble area. And unfortunately, that area has sat blighted for a long time after the town took it over, went to the Supreme Court. And it's finally getting development. So as Mark said, the city used eminent domain, and then it ended up, they harmed the people that live there. And for years it sat vacant, and it was really unfortunate. So I would hope that does not happen here. I would not want to see that. But as Mark said, I think this is just another tool that we can use to help, encourage some sustainable development in our town.
For sure. Attorney Zangari, not to put you on the spot, but did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just a couple of things.
Yeah.
Counselor Madnick's summary of it was very detailed and matched what the research that I did. There was one other thing though that I don't know that came out, but you talked about blighted and redevelopment design. blighted, deteriorated, or underutilized properties, right? So those are kind of the three genres of properties that are subject to this. But it was, and you also talked about, the power, between, you don't want to, didn't seem like you wanted to give this new development agency this unlimited power. All of a sudden, they've got this unchecked ability to do things, but the council would have to make a formal finding as to whether a property was blighted, deteriorated, or underutilized. So the municipal government makes that, which would be you, the town council. So there is some retention of power. It's not just, okay, go find blighted properties or underutilized properties and have at it. No, it would still come before the council. And thank you for Councilor Madnick for printing out those ordinances. So those would be useful. But there may be a way, and I'll get into those in more detail on if there's a way to draft one of those for your review, for you to digest, whether and how much power can be retained by the council, so that you certainly have oversight as the legislative body, and not just giving it to an appointed board that all of a sudden you don't have control of and is doing things that you don't really agree with. So there'll be those safeguards that I believe you can put in there, and I'll leave it to you to how much of those you want to put in. But I'll look into that further, because that seemed to be something that was concerning a lot of people.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Awesome. Any other items that anybody wants to bring up? So we do have a motion to ask our town solicitor to get started on drafting the ordinances surrounding the establishment of a Richmond redevelopment agency. We had our second. I don't know if it was me or you, it was one of us. We'll go to our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Adnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox. Yes. Awesome. Thank you. On to the last item. I wanted to send a resolution in support of a specific bill. Since we don't have the resolution drafted, I wanted to do a motion to ask our town staff to draft a resolution in support of H 5202 relating to Education Equity and Property Tax Relief Act. All right, I have a second to my motion.
Second.
All right, so I got my motion, got my second.
Yeah.
For the public and the council, this is a bill that Representative Cotter and other representatives who represent regional school districts have put forth last year and again this year to have a 6% bonus go towards regional schools. Regional schools save money. They have their benefits along with the downfalls. I've gone up to the State House and testified on this bill past 2 years, I believe. And I think that we should do a formal resolution for council to support it. Any other counselors, anything else they want to add on that? Go ahead, Mark.
I just want to make sure so the bill is just, I know that the statute deals with a lot of things, but the proposed legislation that we're supporting is to reinstate the regionalization 6% bonus for state aid.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. I forgot it's reinstate because we used to get this bonus and it went away many moons ago.
Right.
All right. Anything else? Erin?
What would you like to see in them?
I like to keep the resolutions kind of simple. So keep that it's reinstated, keep that the towns save money by regionalizing, and that it should be incentivized across the state for more towns to do it, or more, not towns, but more regions to do it. And does anybody else have any specific language they'd like in it?
See, just to include that 6%.
Yeah. For sure. That good? Awesome.
Short and simple.
I like that. It's easy for you. They don't need more paper to read up, so it's good. We'll go to our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
And Reynolds
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. Awesome. Communications, petitions, proclamations, resolutions.
Motion to file, Madam President. Communications, petitions, and proclamations and resolutions from other Rhode Island cities and towns.
Awesome. I'll second that. Any discussion? Counselor Dinsmore.
Well, I'd like to
Oh.
pull something.
Oh, sure.
I'd like to pull to discuss at our next meeting, G1E.
All right.
Oh, D. Which one's that?
He
E.
said E.
G1E. Oh, there's
E is an echo.
E is an elephant. Let's get as many as we can out. So do you want to amend? Or redact or
Sure,
revoke? What's the word we use?
I will amend my motion to motion to file communications, petitions and proclamations and resolutions from other other Rhode Island cities and towns, with the exception of sub letter E, 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, yes, second. In the future, I'll remind you guys to pull stuff beforehand. My apologies. We'll go to a roll call vote now. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Wilcox, yes. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Reynolds, Madnick.
Yes.